Awesome. So I just realized I wasn't recording. That's great. All right. So we're going to recap real quick. So
Okay.
hi. I'm Nikki Inman with your yeah, so and we roll with it. Okay. So I just realized I wasn't recording. I need to be recording because I just need to be recording. So welcome to Rebel Queen Spotlight. I am your host, Nikki Inman. We meet weekly, 3 p.m. on Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern. And we will be changing the time come February. We'll be going to 5 o'clock every Wednesday. We'll be here every single Wednesday. And you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, um, where else? YouTube and Clubhouse, and all the handles are the same at the birthing code. Okay. So, I'm not going to give you the long drawn out that I normally do because we had kind of already jumped into the interview. So, my guest this week is Alexis Epperson. And I'm so happy that you're here sharing your story with us today, Alexis. So, Alexis, I'm going to have you just reintroduce yourself. I'm really sorry, only
Yeah,
because
not a
I hadn't
problem.
record button. But yeah, go ahead and reintroduce yourself. I
No, you're
thought I
fine.
had done that. I honestly thought I had done that. But yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm a full-time mommy to a 4-month old. His name is Adonis Clark, and I'm outside of that. I'm a foodie. I'm a naturalist. I like holistic things. I like to work out. I'm all about health. And more importantly, I'm like a sister. I'm like your favorite aunt, your great cousin, but I'm definitely at the end of the day a good friend.
Okay, awesome. So for the purposes of the fact that I just started recording, I would like for everybody to notice that Alexis and I are donning the same hair color. Just wanted to highlight
There you
that.
go.
Yes. And we're doing a darn good job of donning the color that we are.
Your bet. And it's blue. BLEU.
Okay, right.
There you go.
Awesome, awesome. Normally by now my husband jumps on. He watches my show every single week. He is like my biggest, like seriously, my biggest cheerleader. I'm so honored to have such
Beautiful.
an amazing partner. So congratulations of your birth, being a mom. Congratulations. How are you enjoying motherhood so far?
It can be a struggle some days,
Hmm.
but most importantly,
That's real.
my child makes me
That's
feel
real. Yes.
totally like this is all worth it.
Yeah.
So I I mean at this point, the way he makes me feel, I just kind of want another one because it almost seems like it's okay to just have more than one at this point. And
Yeah.
no, but he's the son that I needed in my life.
Oh.
And sometimes I think when we have children, it we might not know what our purpose may be in life, but sometimes you can kind of just relive a little bit in your child. And I live through my kid. He gives me good reason to be here. So
Oh,
definitely.
awesome. Awesome. I love that. I love that. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
I can definitely relate to that. I definitely having children really helped to refocus and things that I thought were important, I realized that they really weren't that important when I became a mom. Like my whole perspective just changed and shifted
It
because I
does.
was a mom, and you just reprioritize and
You do.
just, yeah. So obviously, being a part of Rebel Queen Spotlight means that you have a birthing story that we feel is worth sharing with moms, new moms, or with women who are contemplating conceiving. And yeah, so I'm really appreciative of you being willing to be here today and share your story with us. So I don't know, where do we want to start? How was your pregnancy? Yeah, how was your
It
pregnancy?
okay. So to start, I would say I had a very smooth pregnancy.
Hmm.
It was smooth to the point where most women they usually feel Braxton Hicks or
Yeah.
pains every now and then. I had none of that.
Okay.
And I felt my baby moving every day. I actually myself decided that I was going to avoid any x-ray or any
Ultrasound.
photos of the baby, just to make sure that I was playing it safe by my child for what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing was, towards the end is kind of when I started to get the knowledge that I guess I needed throughout that entire pregnancy that I probably should have already had.
Okay.
I did this because I was, a mother at one point and I had a miscarriage, and I was scared because I had a traumatizing hospital situation that had caused my miscarriage. So at this point, it scared me out of, anything that had to do with a hospital, which can happen with a lot of mothers. At some point, we feel like we kind of caused a situation and we really didn't. And it's like, who do you go to? You
Yeah.
ask yourself these questions. Who do you go to other than the hospital? Because
Right.
everyone makes the hospital seem like the safest place on earth to go to.
Of
And
course.
these were the people that actually caused my miscarriage to take place.
Wow.
So with that being said, a lot of the things that happened with my son medically wise, I didn't know, were going to take place to the end. A lot of people ask me why I didn't know, or did I choose not to know? No, I wanted to know if my child was healthy. It's just, I avoided these things because I wanted to make sure that I was healthy too.
Right. And I just want to jump in because I held a free masterclass, or it was more of a mini series a few weeks back. I think it was in December. And one of the things that I talked about, it was called empowered birthing. And one of the things I talked about was dealing with trauma, and highlighting specifically that a lot of the times, especially within our community, when Black women have experienced some form of trauma as it pertains to pregnancy or birthing. So in your case, with the miscarriage, that a lot of the times when your body is part of the trigger that comes up for you. So obviously, you miscarried with your previous pregnancy. That was your body, right? And so a lot of the times when Black women have that form of trauma, moving forward, they have a hard time trusting specifically the system that could have possibly created that dynamic or created that trauma. And so what will happen a lot of the times with Black women will not go to prenatal visits. They will not go and find an OB. They will not go and find a midwife, because the trust factor, besides the fact the trust factor is not there, there is no longer any trust, but now she feels as though she has to protect herself and protect her body, which is exactly what happened with you. So you were in a position now where it was like, okay, I did it the way that they said I should do it before, and this was the outcome. Now I'm traumatized. I'm not doing that again.
Mm-hmm. I wholeheartedly agree with you there. I think, as far as that goes, I had a lot of people that, came down on me about, deciding to not go to the hospital. Family even, and they kind of came at me, in different angles saying that, it's the best for you. Go to the hospital, at least, get the ultrasound, know what your baby is. And to me, if I would have had a boy or a girl, I would have been just as happy.
Right.
But it was the simple fact of me thinking, okay, well, at this point, anything can cause a miscarriage. And I just don't want to be the one responsible again when I know that I can control the situation. So I feel like, I want to be the one in control this time. And if I have the control, I will make sure my baby is going to have a safe delivery. So that is, in my mind, I put that I needed to have somebody that can provide me this service. And that's when I opted to find a doula.
Okay.
At this point now, I'm looking to make sure that not only do I have a safe delivery, but both me and my baby come home.
Right.
I was super scared at the fact that at this point, this is like around the time when, Black Lives Matter rallies were going crazy.
Oh, that's right. You were pregnant during COVID.
Yeah. So I guess you would say I'm the COVID baby.
Yes. No, we're not. We're not doing that. That whole COVID baby thing is just so like,
Yeah, he's one of those, and he has that mentality too. He's like such a little, he just like has these weird facial expressions, like I hate everything. But no, it's literally it's beautiful though. But it, you know, most importantly, yeah, I was pregnant when COVID first started, and it was to the point where that was around the time also where women were dropping like flies. They were, you know, getting pregnant and they were going in these hospitals and their demands were not being heard. Their demands weren't being met. Yeah. And it scared me out of my own pregnancy.
There was a moment during last year, it was like every time you turned, a Black queen had, you know, Black queen was down, another Black queen was down from being pregnant, or and it was just like, whoa, like literally it just felt like, wait, didn't we just, or you'd hear it and you'd be like, oh, that must be the story I heard the other day, and then you'd find out, no, this is another Black
the
queen.
Same, yep, like, or the different, yeah.
Yeah, so I can't even imagine what that was like for you.
I was terrified because, I mean, this is now my first time being able to carry my baby up to almost full term. And now, like I said, if I'm trying to be in control of the situation, I don't want a doctor to change the narrative of the situation. So, like I said, I opted to find a doula, and at that time it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to find you know, a good birthing center where, you know, I'm located, you know, Buffalo, New York. We had
where the rates are 12 times.
Oh yeah. And then you have these birthing centers. The one that I mean, I'm not going to use any names. One of them, you know, is also like a Planned Parenthood. And it's like, it was scary because I didn't know. Yeah, it's like one that's also shared with like a Planned Parenthood. And
okay, so let's talk about that just for a moment, right? Because a lot of the times we talk about things and we speak about things in a very generalized way. So we say home birth, birthing center birth, hospital births. And I have noticed that the phrase birthing center birth there are levels to that. It is not just birthing center, because when you say birthing center, people think, oh yeah, birthing center. But there are technically two forms of birthing centers. So there are freestanding birthing centers, which is they have no affiliation with a hospital, as it were, other than the midwife having a relationship with a doctor at a hospital, should there be any emergencies, and the midwife has transferring privileges to particular hospitals. But it's usually like a standalone house, and they operate independently of the hospital. I've noticed that hospitals, though, are now coining the phrase birthing center, and it's attached to the hospital. Very different experiences. You will still have very different experiences.
Absolutely.
Standalone birthing center in variation to a birthing center that is attached to a hospital. Your birth will still be very medical in practice if you are going to a birthing center that's attached to a hospital. So I just wanted to make that differentiation, because a lot of the times it's kind of like the term natural. Everybody's using the term natural.
Absolutely.
Now. Yes, or even organic sometimes. And it's like, okay, yeah, now we're putting spins on things, because you know, when people hear that word, that they have an idea of what that is, and that makes them feel safe. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Continue. No, you're fine. It's the form of marketing, you know, trying to bring in the dollar bills, just to, you know, make everybody happy. But yeah, no, one of them is actually attached to, basically what they do is almost like a, you know, abortion clinic. So once I found that out, I was like, absolutely not, because I don't know if I want to give life in the same place that you guys are taking them. I'm okay with that. So I decided against that. And two, my doula also she makes this really clear when she is even going to take you on, you know, as a mom. She's not going to deliver there. She makes that very clear. I will not deliver there. You can deliver on the curb. We can deliver on a subway. We can deliver at your home. We can deliver at a restaurant, but I will not deliver a baby there. And I am okay with that, because it is. to anybody with a right mind, it doesn't make sense. So I just opted against it. And then there was another place in Buffalo, these were my only two options at this point. I decided to go with that place. And then I actually just did some research on the place, and I saw the reviews, and one of the moms, she had lost her child. So at that point, I said, okay, you know what? I'm just going to try to find an actual doula somewhere else, maybe somebody that's just out here doing, solo projects themselves. And I'm just going to go with that person. So I knew Ray was a doula, but I also decided to actually look for her at this point. So now I'm like scavenging, trying to find her on social media. We were already friends. I just didn't even think to look, but we literally were already friends on social media. And I actually messaged her and I asked her, if she thought it would be a great idea. At this point, I'm already in my second trimester, already phasing into my third trimester. So the time was ticking. I was getting scared. At any point, as a mother, you can have your child whenever. And me being young and naive, I had no idea that your baby can practically tell you whenever they're ready to come. So I was like, oh my God, I need to hurry up and find a doula. So she messaged me. She said, absolutely, I would be your doula. I would love to. She said, I am honored that you chose me as your doula. So that's when I knew I kind of chose the right person. I was like, wow, okay, this is great. I told my spouse, we were really excited about it. And at this point, we actually were now phasing into the birthing plan. So we needed to sit down, create a meeting about what we were going to do, what I wanted as far as just everything. I wanted Ray to work solo. Now Ray is just a doula. At one point,
I was going to ask you that, so I'm glad.
Yeah,
covering
a lot of people ask that question too. It's like one of those it's like really iffy, because Ray is just a doula. Now, I never had a team of people assembled for my birth. I never had contacted a midwife or a midwife assistant. I had a regular OB that I would see regularly, but I never had any team of people, no specific person. So Ray actually started to recruit other people that she already had on her team, for births. And the thing was, nobody wanted to get involved with me because I, at that time, didn't know my health status. Mind you, again, I stayed away from hospitals. So they wanted to make sure that the birth was safe before they proceeded. So at that point, once Ray kind of got a whim that a lot of people just didn't want to get involved, she said, I'm not going to leave this mother hanging. We're going to have this baby.
So when you say that she was pulling a team together, what type? Because you had an OB.
Yeah.
So what type of team was she trying to pull together?
Like a midwife, somebody to actually deliver the baby. I mean, because at that point, her job was just simply support. A doula is there to support. And at this point, now she's going beyond her job structure and could possibly, lose her license for, doing more than what is required of her just yet. And it's unsafe. If anything could have happened, that would have been her license. But she actually decided to take on all the responsibility, rather it had been recruiting people or just taking the phone calls, whoever wasn't going to be involved. But she had already made up her mind that even if these people were to fail on you, I'm still going to hold down the fort. So that's what she did. A lot of people just said, absolutely not. I don't want any involvements with this because that's my license on the line, Ray. And she called me and she explained to me what we were going to do. So at this point, she said, Alexis, the only thing I do ask of you is please, let's see what your health status is. So then that way we can kind of know where we're going with this. So I agree.
So just to make sure that our viewers have a clear understanding. So I know that you said you stayed away from prenatal visits and what have you. So you had an OB, but you weren't going to your visits. Is that what you're saying?
I went to a few in the beginning, like in my first trimester of pregnancy, and then I didn't go to as many. Like I didn't do any cervical sweeps. I didn't do
a lot of that.
Yeah, so more just maybe like blood work or something small like that, a urine sample, just to make sure I'm still, testing positive for pregnancy, just for paperwork purposes.
Yeah,
but nothing that would, cause a miscarriage at this point.
But that was in your first trimester that you were
Yep.
going.
Yeah.
Okay, we didn't talk about what it was that you felt that the medical profession had done to cause your miscarriage, your previous miscarriage. But I didn't feel led to ask you that because I felt as though if you wanted to share that and it was a safe space for you that you would. But okay, so the beginning part of your the first trimester, you were seeing your OB. Now, the OB that you were seeing at that time, is that who ended up delivering your baby?
No.
Ah, okay. And so the plot thickens. All right. So let's keep going. All right.
So at this point, Ray decided to actually go and just, do everything on her own. So what we did was we actually scheduled an appointment, with one of our OBs in the area. And then we went in together, and in the beginning, they were giving her a hard time. This is around, like I said, COVID. So this is where they want moms to come in alone, and you just literally have to go through the entire appointment by yourself.
So we're in the third trimester now, right?
Third trimester. Yeah.
Okay.
So at this point, we're almost ready to pop.
So we're really like.
Yeah. So we are at this appointment. We are 38.4. Wow. We are at 38.4. So this is like this is basically the first and the final appointment. This is the appointment that will deter if what happens at this point. So we go to the appointment, and they start talking to us. They let Monda finally come in. And at this point, I want to say they kind of gave me like a eerie look, and it kind of made me, think like, okay, something's wrong. At this point, they explained to me that my blood pressure was through the roof. It needed to come down. And they automatically start talking to me about the fact that I might have symptoms of preeclampsia. That scared me for, whatever didn't scare me, that definitely scared me, because I knew that was really severe. It was really severe. And then they had started talking to me about possible induction. So they then said that if we were going to do the induction process, it needed to happen within that 24-hour grace period. So we needed to either do it the same day or phasing into the next day, no later. My son was due on the 12th. So we actually had to go ahead and get started September 3rd immediately, because they said that if we decided to wait until the 12th, Adonis actually wouldn't have made it. So they also explained that around the sac area, the water area where your baby's actually located, it was actually really low. The water level was extremely low. I think it was a 0.4.
Wow.
It was a 0.4. And he was starting to lose oxygen at this point. So also that was the same day that I found out that I was having a son.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it was a win-win. I was really excited, but at the same token, I was also really sad because of, me losing the whole idea of having a home birth. I was originally really happy about that. I had my heart completely set on it. We had everything packed for it.
So you would transition to having a home birth, and Ray was positioning herself to deliver your baby for you. See, I missed that part. Okay. All right. So it's all making sense now. Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
Cool. So you've gone in, say, okay. So now she was like, hey, let's just do a checkup and make sure that everything is everything. So let's go see your doctor and get everything, squared away to make sure that we're safe to proceed. All right. Yep. And so upon going in, you realize, well, they informed you that we've got some stuff. All right. So 24 hours to make a decision or to decide, essentially, because ultimately every decision is still the mother's, because even though they tell you you've got 24 hours, you can still decide whether you're going to go or not.
Absolutely.
And so you decide that you're going to go.
I decided I was going to go.
Okay.
We went home, we packed our bags, and we packed for the hospital birth. Very next day, we called Ray. Ray came and got us, and we went to a hospital in Buffalo, New York. I'm not going to say names. When we arrived, everything was really beautiful. The whole setup was really beautiful. Definitely nothing of what I expected. It looked more probably like a hotel. nevertheless.
Yeah.
So it was really comfortable for a mom delivering. And then we got really comfortable. So in that time, we talked, we bonded, massages. She gave me massages. She got me comfortable. We used the medicine ball. She even actually coached my spouse.
I was going to ask you, how was your husband through all of this? Because I'm sure for him, a lot of the times men don't always know what's happening. They trust us. They just kind of go with the social norms of you have a baby in a hospital and that's what you do. How was, all of that was a whirlwind for you. I can't even imagine what that was like for him and what he was going through.
He dealt with it so well. I mean, even me and Mondo, basically, we had to give him his props. He was kind of like a doctor himself.
Look at
It's
him.
almost like they were a team, and it was kind of scary because I'm like, wait, where did he get all this knowledge from? If I would have known that, we could have did unassisted. But he was great. He was so calm, and he was so supportive. I felt I want to say, for the first time in a long time, I felt fully supported all around. And it didn't take a full family to be there for me to feel loved.
Yeah.
It was just those two right there holding my hand saying, you can do it.
This. Yeah.
And I was just like, I was really surprised. Like, I was like, oh my God, like, you're doing great. And he kept telling me, Alexis, you're doing great. So that's what gave me the extra energy that I think I needed to actually get through this. Because at one point I kept telling myself, I was like, I can't do this. And he was like, you got it. And I was like, I can't. And he was like, Alexis, you got it. So I did it.
Awesome.
But yeah, so I mean, at this point, now we're sitting there, we're bonding, we're talking, and, she's encouraging him. She's also educating him along the way of things he may see, unusual things, unusual births, just anything. And he's like so in tune, taking notes. And, he's like, at this point, just try to rest, relax, go to sleep while, the oxytocin is, being released into your body to start the induction process. So
the Pitocin.
Yep, Pitocin, yes.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm just laying there and waiting for it to kick in. I don't know what to expect, so I never actually slept. I just watched those two sleep for a while, and now we're up. It's the next day. I want to say close to the afternoon is kind of when things started going. You had the anesthesiologist come in the room. They gave me the talk about epidurals. At this point, at one point I was wholeheartedly against it. And, me and Ray talked about it. She said, Alexis, you wouldn't be able to get an epidural if you were at home. And I had to keep that in mind. I wouldn't be able to have access to it if this were a home birth. So you can't take the cheap now. But my body decided against it for me. Again, this is my first birth. So I actually did go ahead and get the epidural.
Well, to be fair, so I want to be fair and make sure that our viewers have a really good viewpoint of what that means, being that, because some people will look and say, well, I thought you said you wanted to do natural. So see, you couldn't do natural even though you wanted to do natural. So having Pitocin, my description of having Pitocin is so the body produces naturally oxytocin, which brings on contractions and, helps to, or waves, I prefer to call them waves, that helps to bring baby down into a position where you can birth. And oxytocin is something that is obviously generated by the body, and the body is just amazingly competent. Our bodies know exactly what to do where it comes to birthing. Pitocin is the artificial equivalent of oxytocin. So it's the introduction of chemistry into our bodies that's out, it's not part of our normal body chemistry. And you never really know how your body's going to interact or react to chemicals that are introduced from the outside. especially if you have maintained a natural lifestyle. A lot of the times you can introduce these chemicals, and if it's not something that your body's used to, you can have all types of adverse effects. So I had to have Pitocin with my last daughter. And Pitocin is the equivalent of, so we'll start with oxytocin. Oxytocin is the equivalent of, in the morning you have to go to work, you get in your car and you back out of your driveway a couple miles an hour, and you back up, and then you're driving out of your neighborhood and you increase the speed gradually, and you're driving out, and you turn out of your neighborhood and you're going down the road, and your objective is to get to the highway. So you eventually get to the highway, but mind you, you've been gradually increasing speed over time. Okay, so by the time you get to that you get to the highway, you're not like, pedal to the, metal to the pedal and just boom, you've been gradually increasing speed as you go along. Okay, and then you get up to 80, 70, 80 miles per hour. Okay, maybe 80 is above the, don't pay attention to that. Okay, yes, so speed. Okay. So, but Pitocin, on the other hand, so Pitocin, you get in the car and Pitocin backs you up at 70 miles an hour. And that is the difference between Pitocin and your body doing it gradually with oxytocin. So to be absolutely fair, the fact that you had Pitocin, 9 times out of 10, women are going to opt to have an epidural, because those waves, and no, those aren't even waves. Those contractions, they're not normal. They are not normal. They are, even the way that they come back to back, you don't a lot of the time get any space. You don't get, and they're all the same intensity. And depending on whether they turn it up or turn it down determines how intense it's going to be or not. And so, I want to make sure that education is out there so that people aren't sitting like, well, what happened to you being natural? You had Pitocin, and that's a game changer. With my daughter, I ended up having Pitocin, but I think my mind was just so made up. Like, this was baby number 5 for me. I think if it had been baby number 1, it may have been different, but this was baby number 5 for me. And I just looked at the nurse and was like, listen, it's bad enough I had to do Pitocin. We're not doing anything else. But again, this was baby number 5. I was very like, yeah, I was all the way in, like, no, we're not doing any other medication. So I just wanted to make sure that I covered you in that, because people are people. So I wanted to make sure that information went out. So you decided to have an epidural.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. Yeah, I did. I decided to have the epidural, and at that point I was kind of beating myself up mentally. I was like, why did you do it, Alexis? You just couldn't just take a little, heat behind the situation, and people make you think, like my mom, she just always told me these great birth stories of how all the kids were out like 2 seconds, and she didn't even have to even ask for an epidural because the kid was already on the gurney. It was just great. And I expected those same things to happen to me, not realizing that every story is different, every child is different, and every birth is different.
Absolutely.
So I was never going to have my mother's experiences or the next woman's experience. It was going to be me being able to live to tell my own tale.
Yes.
So at this point, I had the epidural, and as we were sitting there, the epidural, I want to say, was probably one of the worst trial situations that happened in this entire process. The 2 surgeons, 2 younger males, were trying to find my spine.
Oh, the anesthesiologist? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if everyone's spine is off to the left, but I think mine is pretty straight for the most part, but they just couldn't find it that day. And they were having a problem
finding the space. Okay.
Yeah, and I was hunched over on this nurse, and I was crying my eyeballs out, and I just kept getting the contractions, and it just kept hitting me so hard, and I kept asking myself, when is that relief feeling supposed to kick in?
Not
And
with the
they were
person.
still working on me, and they were like, just hold on to that pillow. And I'm like, I'm holding on, but when is it supposed to be over with? And at this point, I hear one of them whisper, I think her spine's off to the left. So they're still injecting me, and they're asking me, hey, do you feel that? And I'm like, yes, I feel that, but I'm screaming. And they were like, do you feel that? And I'm like, yes, I feel that. And it went on for, I want to say, close to like 10 minutes of me trying to get this epidural. And then when I finally did look back, there were a lot of bent needles on this tray. So I was really disappointed. And they said the job was done. And they packed everything up and they moved out the room, allowing my spouse and Ray to come back into the room. So yes, I was alone when that procedure took place, and very disappointed about it. But I guess that's one of the medical procedures that has to be performed solo. So yeah. And then as I laid there and the contractions were starting to hit me, I was given a button to push, to release more of the epidural, I guess, into my system. And once I realized I had already pushed the button like 3 times, I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel, but I'm not feeling anything. So that's kind of when it clicked in my head. You're about to have this baby naturally because you're not getting what you just asked for. So I was like, I'm done. Let's get this going. So I yelled at Ray, I was like, come on, Ray, let's do this. I'm ready to have this baby. And she
So basically, you weren't
room.
getting any relief from the
None.
medication.
None.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is that an epidural does not, again, we talked about the chemistry piece. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you. You know, it's like, and a lot of women will think, there are some women who it does not work. It absolutely does not work. And they still feel every wave, every contraction. Yeah.
You know, I think the scary part too, when it does come to epidurals, is it may not work right then and there, but it does has its effects.
Yes.
And rather, if it has its effects on your body after the pregnancy, it also has its effects on your baby as well. So I think that was the part that scared me and made me wonder, why did I do it? Because once my baby came out with those complications, I kind of started mentally battling myself, thinking, did I cause this by asking for that epidural?
Okay, so let's back up. Yeah, we didn't quite get there. Okay. So now you realize it's time, it's time. And I'm imagining that a nurse came in and checked you.
Yep. So at this point, we were bringing everybody into the room to start the birthing process. They cleared everything and started setting me up. I want to say that with me, I respected the fact that, you know how in traditional movies, when a woman is birthing, they do coach birthing.
Yeah.
I was scared of that aspect because I also knew that coach, or just the idea of it can, cause a woman to tear. And I didn't want to tear, but most importantly, I just wanted to make sure that that was honored by you allowing me to tell you when I feel the contraction coming and the wave is coming, so then I can push comfortably. And I will say that the hospital did honor that. They honored that because Ray explained to them that that was in my birthing plan. I want to make sure that I'm able to breathe through my contractions so that I can push comfortably. So we did just that. They did put me in the position where your legs are up. At first I wanted to push on all fours. I was one of those moms that felt like that was probably a more comfortable position for me. But we actually went against that and decided to do the position where my legs were in the air. At this point, it was comfortable at this point, and everything worked out the way it needed to. So what we did was we started pushing. We had, I want to say, about at least 3 good pushes where they started to see the top of his head coming through. And then I had a moment where I needed to take a break, and I kind of just felt, like I couldn't do it at this point. And that was when, you know, Charles and Ray came over to me and was like, you can do it, Alexis, you can do it. And they held my hand, and Charles whispered, he said, if you can just give me one really good, strong push so we can get his head through, we'll be fine. So I did just that. And then his head came. At this point, I gave him one more. And this was the push where they saw the cord. And the cord actually was kind of tied around Adonis's neck. And it was a short cord. So when I did push, what happened was his cord ruptured and it literally painted the whole room red. I thought it was water. It wasn't water. It was blood. And I had no idea what was going on. And at this point, everybody was skating in the room and just trying to get everything back together. And he was literally starting to turn blue. So at this point, I had already pushed him out, and they were literally like, at this point, about to whisk him away to an ICU. His levels were dropping. He was losing oxygen really quickly at this point. And it was just, they gave us enough time, you know, to give him a hug and a kiss and say, you know, our last goodbyes. But it was just one of those moments where, you know, even like animal instincts, you know, you take anybody's kid away, it mentally will damage you. So like I said, I had no idea that this was going to take place. We knew that at the end there were going to be some complications, but nothing that would keep me and the baby away from each other. So it led to, you know, him going downstairs to NICU, and then him going downstairs to NICU in that particular hospital, and then them transferring him to another hospital in another city, an hour away from home.
So you're in one hospital and your baby's in another hospital that's an hour away from home.
Yes. So I got a call from the surgeon that was going to do his surgery, and he explained to me that once your son arrives here tonight, he said, I know he's on the way. Once he actually gets here, I'm going to perform his very first surgery. It's going to be an arterial switch. He's going to have 2 surgeries, an arterial switch and a transposition of the great arteries. Once the surgery is complete, I'm going to call you. I'm going to let you know that the surgery is complete so that you can rest easily. It's like, I don't want you stressing out unnecessarily. He said, your son is going to be just fine. We do these things all the time. He said, I don't want you to think that you did anything. Your son is fine. He just has a little small complication that is very much so fixable. So I want to say that was probably the most calmest I'd felt that day, because I had spoke with somebody that I felt like, okay, I can trust you. My kid's going to be fine. You're telling me my kid's going to be fine. I expect just that. And then he called me, just probably, I want to say it only took him about like 3 hours to do the surgery. And he called me back that same night and said, the surgery is complete. And he was like, I want you to just take a breather at this point. And I did. I was able to finally, you know, take you know, a deep breath and not, you know, be so angry inside. That next morning, I got a happy phone call from Raymonda, and she was just smiling. And I had no idea what she was up to, because she's just this really bubbly individual. But I had no idea that what she did was Ray went out and she felt really bad about what happened. And she raised all this money for me and my spouse to actually go and stay with our child in that city. Wow. Right. So everything from transportation to food, just everything. And
right, because it was an hour away, right?
Absolutely. So at this point, she raised so much money, and she also, what happened was, Ronald McDonald is one of the facilities that's connected to the hospital that my son stayed at. And they usually house, you know, families that have children that have complications, like, you know, our son. And what happened was they were completely booked at that time. It was too many families, and the facility basically called to let me know. They have a social worker that reaches out to you, and she explained to me that they were too booked at that time and that we needed to wait till the following Monday. So what Ray did was she got us a hotel all the way up until, it was time to actually book with Ronald McDonald.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
yeah.
That's
she's
awesome.
a sweetie. She's a real sweetie. And then at this point, so what we did was she dropped us off, her and her spouse actually, they dropped us off to Rochester, right off at the hospital actually. And we stayed there, we watched our, baby and just talked to him, read him some books. And then we finally went back to the hotel, and we stayed in contact with everybody. I think just talking to everybody throughout that entire process just made us feel a lot better. But I will say, during that time, there were some trying times, even with the hospital. Me and my spouse were experiencing things like racism. And at that time, we were literally the only Black couple at that hospital at that time.
Wow.
And we just kept going through situations where we kept feeling like, is this normal or is this racism? And you don't want to always outrule everything as racism right away.
Right.
But let's things, and we just kind of got a whim that, these things weren't normal things that should be happening to people like us, especially new young parents. So Ray stayed in touch, as well as I have a breastfeeding instructor as well. Her name is Jasmine, and they literally called me every day. They kept me in good spirits. They kept me happy. They kept me motivated. Yeah. They kept me positive for my child as he was going through those surgeries constantly. And at this point, we've been in there for weeks now, and Ray, she kept me up to date on breastfeeding instruction, as well as Jasmine. I also had many moments where I actually found out that the hospital was administering my son baby formula at the time. And I was a breastfeeding mom.
I'm about to say, with or without your permission?
Without my permission. Yeah. So that was one of my trying moments. And I was like really angry as a mom. I was like, I don't know if it's because I'm a Black mom, but I was really angry. And I was really hurt because I had spent so many nights up trying to pump, trying to make sure that I had enough milk for my child to be content. Trying to do everything I needed to do. I had been that mom that went to the store and got all of these drinks and these cocktails and these, certain things that people tell you that you need to be able to produce a good supply of milk. I did it all.
Right.
And I cried, I didn't, at this point, I was losing hope because my son was already battling what he was battling. And then me seeing him like that was always stressing me out. And it's like the hospital knew that. And it's like they kind of preyed on that weakness that I had, because at that point I was really vulnerable. I'm like, you guys are taking care of my child. And one day I just happened to come upstairs and I seen the can planted on the countertop, and I asked my spouse, I said, how long do you think that can's been there for? And he said, I'm not sure. He said, but I'll ask one of the nurses. And when he asked the nurse, if the can was being used, she said yes. And she kind of stuttered on her words. And I was like, so you guys do, I want to confirm, you guys do use that can of formula for my child? And she said, yeah, we do. And I was like, well, when did you guys just start giving it to him? And she was like, recently, actually. So what they did was, because Adonis had a blood clot in his neck, they actually started giving him Enfamil, because they said that it had the right amount of iron in it to kind of help with the blood clot. And I was upset because I always thought that, breast milk was sufficient enough to be able to help with anything. So I, questioned, and I started researching. I started calling everybody, And, you know, it just became a moment where I just kind of needed to just breathe.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Reflect. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
At this point, that was one of the trying times, but it's getting closer to the point where we are now talking about being discharged. So they're showing our, you know, me and my spouse, you know, how to do everything when you get discharged with the baby. And then I will say,
give me 1 second. I've got like a mini emergency. Give me 1 second.
yeah, no problem.
Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry.
Okay?
Yes, I'm balancing life and motherhood.
No, you're fine.
I got it taken care of. So, okay, thank you.
Oh,
Sorry
no,
about
you're
that.
great.
Okay, right, go ahead.
It's good to know that even when, you know, things are live, you know, life is still happening. You still have to take care of priorities as a mother. So kudos to you for being able to bounce back, Beyonce.
You know, it's so funny because I was actually dealing with this for a minute and I kept discreetly trying to look down and do what I'm doing. And I was like, okay, let me just go ahead and handle it. Okay, yes. So
well, you did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I always say to people, you know what? This is real life. Welcome to my life. And we flow like water. We just keep it moving.
That's the power of a mom. That's the power of a mom. That's what we do. We bounce back. It's quite all right. You are quite all right.
And it's, yeah, okay. Thank you.
No, you're fine.
Sorry. Okay, please continue.
No, you're fine. At this point, we were phasing into being discharged. They went over instructions with us as per being discharged from the hospital. And what happened was Raymonda actually went ahead. She composed this super large basket for me and Charles also as well before we went to Rochester. And it had like so many things in it, like onesies, books, baby toys, a tablet. And it came inside of a baby, like a baby chair, like a car seat. Like a car seat. Came with a car seat. Yeah. So that was one less expense that, you know, me and my spouse had to actually worry about. So at this point, this was the car seat we were going to use. Now, the plot twist was closer to discharge, the day of, they were basically saying that they needed the car seat to come upstairs. So then that way, you know, they can do a car seat trial.
Right.
The car seat works and everything's going to be okay on the drive back home.
Right.
So when we brought the car seat up, the nurse explained that the car seat was expired. And I was like, huh? I didn't know a car seat could expire. Yeah. And he was like, the warranty, you know, is like a year behind. But he was like, no worries. If you can just get another one here, you know, tonight, then we can start the car seat trial from, you know, everything. So you guys can go home. Mm-hmm. So what happened was I called Ray and I was crying. I was like boo-hooing. I'm like, oh my God, we're not going to be able to go home. And then she was like, hold on 1 second. So she did something. She worked like her little fairy godmother magic. And and she actually was like, she said, where's the nearest Walmart to you? So I gave her the instructions to the nearest Walmart. And she said that she was going to actually go ahead and get Adonis another car seat. So we had just went with that idea. apparently one of the nurses kind of overheard the situation, and I guess she just was done with having kids. So she was like, hey, I have a car seat for you. And I was like, huh? And she was like, I have a car seat for you. She was like, I don't want kids anymore. And she said, I have an old car seat. She said, it's not expired though, but it's old. And she was like, I'm willing to give it to you. And I was like, thank you so much. And at this point, you know, I called Ray back. I was like, don't get the car seat. Thank you so much though. But again, it's just the fact that, you know, all these blessings are now, you know, pouring in, and it's coming from genuine people. So at this point, we do the car seat trial, everything passes. We are now phasing back into now coming home and trying to live a regular life. We have doctor's appointments back to back to back to back. Everything is just, you know, it's never a moment for me to kind of take like a deep breath as a mother, but it's like you have to adjust. You have to adjust. You got to get everything in no matter what. And there's no time to sit back and complain about what, you know, you can't do, because at this point now you have to do it. But I will say that having, you know, the support from Jasmine and having the support from Raymonda and from my spouse and my family and his family has made the transition so much more smoother. And I don't know what it would feel like if I didn't have all of this support pouring in from every angle, because, you know, and I feel terrible for mothers that have to do it on their own. You know, at the end of the day, you didn't create that child by yourself, but more importantly, it's a support thing. So like, even if you know a single mother that doesn't have, you know, just be there for her. Be there for her if you can, you know, because
support
to me it's like,
everything.
I feel like I built a sisterhood somewhere. You know, I speak to Jasmine every day. I speak to Ray every day. And sometimes it's not even about Adonis. Sometimes it's just for mental clarity or just trying to release stress, or it can be about a relationship issue or just getting some advice, you know, or advice as a woman. But it's just overall, just speaking to them has brought more calmness to my life than anything I can ask for. It's like having a counselor on the go, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome. That is awesome. You know, I wanted to, because I think in the midst of you telling me your story and me dealing with life, hey, Ramonda's on and Jasmine's on.
Yay.
You know, Facebook, like, just so last minute with, like, it takes forever. So they've probably been here for a minute. So just for context, when, and I know I'm sure some of this was whirlwindish for you. I don't know if you remember when you were birthing Adonis. Love his name, by the way. So
Thank you.
Strong. It's just
Thank you.
so strong. When you were birthing Adonis and you birthed his head, typically they normally will check to see if cord is wrapped around baby's neck before telling you to push again, because they want to make sure that it's not around baby's neck so it can be removed, so that, you know, we don't have a strangulation situation or any other complications. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. It would seem to me that that check wasn't made when you were birthing him. Only because I'm trying to put the pieces together of how we went from you birthed his head and then you were told to push again and the cord ruptured. I'm trying to, or did the cord rupture because the cord was short? I'm just trying to get context to, do you remember?
The cord was definitely wrapped and the cord definitely was short as well. I know that the cord was extremely short. So I'm not really sure if it ruptured because it was short on the most, because I'm not sure if there's a difference in between, you know, if it were longer, would it have, you know?
Well, the longer just gives you more room, but I'm just wondering, like, I'm just trying to get context of what, because it wasn't an emergency situation. It wasn't like it was, okay, we've got to get this baby out now, you know, but even still, I'm trying to picture where the misstep was, because a ruptured cord and blood all over the room is not a normal thing that should be happening. So I'm just trying to figure, okay, did someone not check the cord around his neck? Was it that they tried to take it around his neck, but it was too short? Like, I'm just, yeah. I need answers. Maybe you won't be able to give me, and I would love to have Ramonda on to speak with her, because maybe she had probably more of a bird's eye view of what was happening in context with the interactions and just the energy in the room and what was happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would really love, because I just feel like something's missing there. Like, what happened? Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody gave you an explanation as to
an explanation. It's
great.
That time, I think I just took it for one of those things that just happened.
But you know what? And to be fair, I mean, even with that happening, you're also going through a whole lot. You're processing. I wanted a home birth. I didn't get to have a home birth. I had to have Pitocin and I had to have an epidural. Now the epidural's not working. I've been stuck in my back like a gazillion times and it's not working. And then now I'm trying to process, okay, it's time for me to push. Now what I thought was water all over the room is not, it's blood. Oh, now I'm also finding out baby's oxygen is not where it needs to be. They're whisking my baby away. You're being told to say goodbye. You don't know if it's going to be the last time you see you. I mean, that's a whole lot to process.
It is.
And be like, hey, so what happened with the cord exactly? So yeah, I'm sure that
you're right.
The big picture of everything that was happening, finding out what happened with the cord was not top on your list of priorities. So that's just me being able to, sit on the outside, process.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Wait a minute, what happened what happened there? Yeah, so no, you're fine. I just wasn't sure if you had known, or if maybe they had given you some form of explanation. Like, did they even give you any type of explanation as to what happened with Adonis? Was this something that happened in utero? Was this something that happened due to his cord? Was this, the fact that he even had to have that surgery? Was there any form of, hey mom, this is what happened, this is why we think this happened? Was there any?
I mean, towards, me going down to NICU to see him just before they kind of whisked him away completely, I did talk to one of the doctors, and he was basically just saying, he was like, well, here's the thing, I don't want you to think it's your fault.
Right.
It's not. He was like, this is just something that developed, as he was basically in the womb throughout the entire process of, you birthing.
So that's what they're saying. Okay, so they were saying it was a developmental. I'm gonna have to look that up. What was it that they said it was called?
He has a SVT as well. So he has a hole in his heart, actually, about the size of a quarter.
The size of what?
A quarter.
Okay. All right. So he had a hole in his heart. And then what was the other? What was his surgery for?
He had a transposition of the great arteries, and then he had an arterial switch.
So I'm telling you, I'm gonna write it down, because now I want to know. Guys, excuse me, I gotta write this down.
No, you're fine.
Arterial switch.
Yes, arterial switch.
This is my pre nursing days, my pre-nursing school days. I cannot help it. It's like, I need to know. Okay, and then you said, what was the other? Oh, okay, the arterial switch. Okay, cool. I promise you I'm looking that up, because now inquiring minds want to know. Okay. Awesome. So Mama, you've been through a lot, and Adonis is 4 months now.
Yes.
So this is like just the other day. That's not even that far away that all of this has happened. So thank you so much for even being willing to
absolutely
share this. How is he doing now?
Adonis is thriving. He is doing more at a 4-month-old that I think most people don't even do at 26. And
I love it. It's
exciting. He's laughing, he's smiling. It's like you don't even know that, he went through any of this. And, the doctors told me, they were like, he's not going to remember any of this. So you don't have to worry about that. But it's just, he's like literally the sweetest kid. He's happy all the time. He's smiling. He's trying to move. He's trying to talk. And it's a blessing. It makes me happy. It makes me feel like this is worth it. This is all so worth it, you know?
Yeah. So, my new thing that I'm doing is asking moms who, who share their stories. If you were to give a mom a piece of advice based on your journey, and of course, this is based on your journey and your experience, everybody's experience is different.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to give a mom advice based on your journey and your experience, what would one or two pieces, what would that be?
My first would be please get a doula. Please get a doula. It's scary having to make the decision of if you're gonna go in the hospital and birth.
Especially if you're going to the hospital. Especially
Yes,
if you are going to the hospital.
especially if you're going to the hospital, but even if you decide to do a home birth, it is
Absolutely.
so important to have. I mean, even if you feel like it's okay to do it unassisted, you have women out here that can do unassisted births, but just have a doula for the support. You can
Mhm.
never not have too much support in your life. And I think for me, the beauty of it is knowing that even after everything is all said and done, Adonis is great. He's doing great now. My doula is still around. She's still
Wow.
involving herself. And I made her, Adonis's godmother for that reason.
Oh.
Yeah, she's Adonis's godmother because she worked for that title. A lot of, kids nowadays, they give that, godmother, godfather title off with
Mhm.
not realizing what really comes with it. And
Yeah.
she has proven herself, overall that she's there. She's gonna be there.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have it any other way. But most importantly, definitely please get a doula. And I would say at least if I know a lot of moms, they have different regimens when it comes to how they eat, when it comes to pregnancy. We have cravings, we want certain things, but I would say if you're not going to be completely alkaline or do a lot of holistic things, at least try to be healthy, mentally, financially. Certain things about health should come into play when it comes to having your child. So make sure your environment is clean. From time to time, if you could, maybe 3 days out the week, at least try to eat a healthier meal. But these things, if you could walk, for 30 minutes a day, these things are really important for, good developmental growth for the child and just good for you as a mother. So that's my advice that I would give to any other mother in the world when it comes to having a child.
Thank you. And what advice would you give them about preparing?
Preparing, I will say it's scary, but I will say definitely just take a big breather. We as moms, like even after we have our kids, sometimes we don't just take a big breather, and you just need to be able to just take a deep breath and put yourself in a peaceful place.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Thank you, Blue.
You're
Thank you.
very welcome.
I am so I'm so excited. I want to definitely stay in contact with you.
Absolutely.
And I am so honored that you trusted us with your story and sharing. Like I said, this was just the other day. This was not too far,
Yeah.
long ago. So thank you so much for being willing to share your story. I know that, yeah, you were super blessed to have Ramonda. Like, doulas are amazing, but your doula's gold. Like, she doesn't even,
Yeah.
she deserves like a whole cape and the big R and
She does. Mine is the colostrum, honey. She's
yeah, she is.
okay.
She is. Yeah, we're calling her colostrum doula. Like, she is like
She's a,
hands down,
she is.
hands down.
She
Like, if you
is.
want to talk about going above and beyond the call of duty, yeah. If
Mhm.
that was, if there's a definition in the dictionary for that, Ramonda's picture is right there.
I'm trying to tell
Absolutely
you,
right
that
there.
lady is phenomenal, and it doesn't stop there, And like I said, it's all about support, and she's still doing a phenomenal job even after my child is still here. Like I couldn't I wouldn't have it any other way. She's definitely a blessing to not even just my life, but to all the mothers. Like, she has a really high successful rate as a doula, and she's just out here just having babies left and right. And she's really doing a phenomenal job while doing it. And I want to say thank you to her. And I definitely want to say thank you for having me to be able to even speak on her. She's awesome.
Yes. So, okay. So I don't know if she's taking clients, but all things being equal, she'll grace us with her presence on our show. We'll definitely want to have her on and yeah, definitely highlight her and honor her. So yeah, absolutely, doulas are priceless. Like, it's not even a luxury to have a doula, it's a necessity. It absolutely is. I wish that when I was having my children that I knew about a doula. And there, you know, I had another doula on a few weeks back, and there are different types of doulas. So, you know, but it sounds like Ramona is all. She is. She is all things. So yes, thank you again, Alexis, for being here and sharing your story. And I know that some mom is going to be able to listen to your story and realize and be like, okay, let's go get that doula.
There you go.
Please
make a decision to make a doula.
Yeah. My biggest hope is that in the big picture of your story, that's the thing that women take away, that, you know, the doula is everything. Yeah,
absolutely.
Part of your team, the support. It's imperative. It's really important. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So everybody, I'm gonna have to come down off my high. This happens every week. It's like I get on this high and then I have to give myself some time to come down because it's such an amazing experience. I get to journey with these ladies and I love what I do because ordinarily I wouldn't have been able to meet these ladies if I wasn't, you know, hosting the Rebel Queen Spotlight. So yeah, this is awesome. I'm so blessed to be able to be a part of these stories. So tune in with us next week. Next week, Wednesday, 3 p.m., we will have a new Rebel Queen. So you've been donned Rebel Queen, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes. So join us next week for our new Rebel Queen. You guys have a great evening, an amazing week, and be sure to take care of yourselves. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.